Half the population are severely anemic because their diet of fish and rice contains very little iron. Iron deficiency is the cause of many health problems and pregnancy complications, like premature births and miscarriages and even deaths. Iron pills are available but are far too expensive, so we needed to find a cost-effective solution. That's when we knew this had the power to change it all. We worked out that cooking with a piece of iron for 10 minutes could provide a family with up to 75% of their daily iron intake. The challenge was getting them to use it. They did, but just not for cooking. So we had to dig deeper if we wanted to help. And we found this, a cultural symbol of hope and good luck. The lucky iron fish. And the community has embraced it. Our team has been going out educating, promoting and encouraging more families to use the iron fish. And the results have been life-changing. After only 9 months of regular medical trials and testing, we have seen a 50% drop in iron deficiencies and helped 54,800 people feel healthier and happier. The best part is, this is a sustainable solution, made from recycled material that undergoes strict quality control tests, handmade and packaged by the local community. The project provides hundreds of jobs along the way.
Lives, and recently it received the stamp of approval from former U.S. President Bill Clinton.
The Lucky Iron Fish is now a registered company for good, giving us the power to help millions of families around the world. Let's put a fish in every pot.
Okay, this is the fish. Good afternoon, everybody. This is, for me, a very inspiring icon of how you can make a profit to be proud of. How can you make also an environmental and societal impact? And that's based on upcycling materials. So that is a really nice circular business model. So our mission is to leave people and planets better than we found them. That's quite a big mission, we would say, but we make it more concrete down to the presentation. Our values are important to us, and I will show you one or a few example in this presentation. Already mentioned by Marcus, we always start at customers. So we are looking, who is your customer? And it doesn't matter if you work in a government, then your citizens are customers, or in a business, or in business to business, or a business to consumer environment. And we work with smaller companies with zero budgets to larger corporates globally on, amongst other, circular economy and bringing their ideas to life, to cash, what we saw. So why I'm standing here, first of all, thank you very much for Dutch Embassy for offering me this platform to tell a little bit about circular economy and how to put this in practice, because that's the key question for me this afternoon. How can we make this concrete? It's a very nice story. A lot of people ask, is this the next hype after sustainability? No, it isn't. This was my venture in renewable energy. So we had the vision to go towards a decentralized energy scenario by, for example, starting with households, small households, collecting their own energy, generating, but also monitoring it. Unfortunately, I failed. And that's also a lesson today. You have to learn, fail many times. That's why they call me an expert, because I failed so many times in such a small area. And the great thing is that a company like Tesla is now doing this, and Google Nest is also a great example. So we're getting there. But first of all, if you all say circular economy, that's something for, like sustainability for tree huggers. I would object. There is a real potential. 4.5, 3 or whatever trillion euros opportunity. That's quite a lot. So why don't we take that? But first of all, how do we do that? And the good news is you see already quite some examples. Examples like Rolls-Royce, that's delivering an engine where you only pay for the engine hours. Philips offering light where you pay per lux. Van Gispen, you get great examples as well. So we are already moving from commodities to products to services, and even the next step will be delivering experience. Because we see and we learned that you get more money from delivering services and experience than just selling commodities. You also see what happened already from 30 years ago, that we see sustainability first from a risk and compliance perspective, then we meant to sustainability, that's basically look at it from an eco-efficiency perspective, that's something for supply chain, purchasing, etc., etc. And luckily we go now to more a systematic approach where we look from an innovation perspective. So looking circular thinking as a key driver for innovation to create new businesses. We also changed the perspective how we see the environment society in relation to economy. So we wrote a book because there were a lot of people aware but said, okay, Christiaan, Nancy, Cecile, the co-writers of the book, give us examples. So what we try to do is give a 10-step approach. And of course, unfortunately, I cannot deliver you a cookbook. It's not linear, not at all. So you will somewhere start, make a step, learn, do an experiment, and go on. The good thing is that we already have proven this approach with many companies. And today I would like to show you 3 important steps. The first is circular business model innovation. Secondly, I would like to focus on how to start through experiments and learnings. And the third step, it's about leadership. This is Gunther Paulin. He's from the blue economy, and he taught me a very important lesson. And that's the mindset we should have for a circular economy. We learned at our schools, and especially if you went to an MBA, that we have to compete each other. We have only one pie, and we have to get the biggest slice of the pie, at cost of others, of course. No, the circular economy, the mindset should be that we have to collaborate. We have to enlarge the pie together. There's enough pie for everybody here. So let's take that. This is Scott. I met him about 10 years ago, and he's a product designer. And Scott was very interested already in the first thoughts about circular economy, what's called cradle to cradle. Maybe you know it. And Scott told me, as a product designer, Christiaan, I'm very interested to design for something like that. But very often I hear it's costing, it's hiring the cost. So why should we do it? Nobody is going to buy that. And what we always say when we see Scots and meet Scots always in companies, we say start at where you could add value. And the first question to ask that is asking your customer or the customer of your customer. Let me give an example. This is a scale-up that's called Fresh Air. And Fresh Air has a technology, patented technology, to heat and cool areas like this. And they deliver fresh air. And they approached us and said, okay, we want to sell this for installers. It's very nice because they can put it to the market in buildings, etc., etc. But after some time, they failed. So we said, okay, let's see who your potential customers could be. Have you looked at schools? And of course, for the people who have children, it's important that you have a good environment where you get your lessons, a healthy environment. So why are you not going to deliver fresh air? And that's an example how they move from a technology to a service. And by doing this, they also have to collaborate. So instead of selling this to an installer, they work together with installers, but also with municipalities and schools to deliver this to the market. So making the pie together and doing this together. Another great example is Figa, and you might know it. I will show you what and how they are doing this.
Viga is the founder of a unique new concept that It introduces organic, reusable children's clothing on subscription. We want to end the throwaway society.
Is helping, I think, fathers, especially fathers of younger children, because fathers, in general, I've learned, especially in the Netherlands, don't like to shop. So it's a hassle every time my baby grows out of the children clothes, or the baby clothes. I have to buy new ones, and I don't like the shopping and the hassle, etc., etc. So it would be great if Figa delivers me, after I've used the clothes, a bag with new clothes for my lovely baby, and a very high value of clothes, of course, without chemicals. And what the great thing is that you also have a sustainable impact, because you reduce, instead of only one or family using it, maybe 3 to 5 times, they deliver this to 7 families. And their business model is that they have to collaborate, of course, with companies that can wash the clothes, reverse logistics, that can track it, RFID technology. And then suddenly your business model is changing from just selling baby clothes to delivering a service. And that's what I like about this circular business model innovation example. Another one, Porsche. A lot of men, again men, seems to like to drive a Porsche. So what did Porsche do? They were using their second-hand cars, putting that to dealers and said, okay, if you're in the neighborhood and you would like to share with 3 or 4 neighbors a Porsche, it's possible. We deliver you the service, you only pay when you use it, and that's it. And then you drive a Porsche. Same is Volvo now doing. They even extend it. So they say it's not just a subscription on a model, because you could say, is this circular? No, they also even add services like delivering your groceries to the car while you are at work. So they extend, they also deliver the maintenance of the car, the servicing, the fuel, everything you want. And the great thing is they are responsible to take the car back. So they also have to think about the circular design of the car, to how to reuse the materials. So again, a nice example. And of course, they cannot do it alone. They have to work and to collaborate with different business partners. You could say, Christian, very nice examples, but how do I start here in Tallinn? Now, this is Martijn Bos. And Martijn Bos has a family company in the Netherlands, 150 years old. And they're delivering cheeseware. So this is a typical Dutch product. I don't know if you know it here. To cut your cheese. And what he said is, okay, I would like to leave my company for future generations. So that already has a stewardship mentality. He said, if we would move to a circular economy, what would that mean for Bosca? So what we did is saying, okay, Martijn, before you shift your whole business model and you have, we better make a first small step together. Let's do an experiment. And that means we first are going to define what could be interesting for your customers. We will test that, then improve, and then go on. So from a big vision, like the circular economy, make it very small and also affordable. Because an experiment, an advantage of that is you reduce your risk and your cost. So if you look at the innovation curve, people might recognize who are in innovation. On the left side, there's just the fake ID. On the right side, you have fully introduced a product, including all the cost. So the earlier you can spend your euro on an experiment and do your experiments and learnings, the better and more efficient. And what can you lose if we just say, okay, let's try for 1 month a sort of subscription model of what we have? What will happen then? And test what's doing. So how are we doing that? First of all, if we start something like that, there will be a lot of assumptions. So not facts yet. We assume that a subscription model could be interesting. We think we cannot manage with the reverse logistics. We don't know how the financial transactions work. So let's design something like that. But write down your assumptions together with the people in your organization or in your company. And then decide what's the most critical assumption, the most riskiest one that would impact our business model. And that one we will test. So we will design a test, do the test, learn and improve. And that's what we do all the time, learning loops, experiment loops. So we did this, for example, for the Dutch company Mud Jeans. They lease jeans. So I have a Mud Jeans, I only pay a monthly fee. And after the period of time, I can return it. They lease it as a vintage jeans, great, worn by Christian or Rick or whatever, Margot, so very special, or it's going back and will be upcycled to other clothes or fashions. But their question was, how can we, because this is very appealing for a niche, but not for the mass yet. So how can we scale up to the mass? So their key question was, how can we make leasing more attractive for our customers? So what we did, we designed an experiment, and we had two assumptions. One is that the customers are interested to show that sustainability can be fun, like we see this afternoon and tonight. And the other side was, no, their assumption was that subscription to community with lifestyle tips would be more interesting. Okay, in the audience, who would think that most of the customers, we put this online, very easy, we call it an A/B test. So how many would click on A? Could you raise your hand, please? Yeah? Can I assume the rest B or neutral? Okay, wisdom of the crowd, because B is right. But the company Mud Jeans thought that A was the one. So after that, they learned how to improve basically their value proposition and how to approach this certain target customers and slowly scale it up. Another example of a larger scale experiment, ABN AMRO is a large Dutch bank. They built a circular pavilion in front of their headquarters in the almost most expensive area of Amsterdam. So quite a statement, I would say. They didn't know a lot about circular economy, but what they said is, we invite everybody to work with us, to do an experiment together. So they went to the elevator company called Mitsubishi and said, according to our specifications, we need 2 elevators, please deliver that. Then Mitsubishi came back and said, but if I do the calc, you will only need 1 elevator, because you can walk, that's good for bankers. And the other side, you only have to pay for the vertical movements. So we keep ownership of the elevator, we do the installation, maintenance, everything, and you only pay us for the usage. So interesting model, I would say. This model you probably know from Interface. So they work together with Aquafil, and they saw that Philippine fishermen and women, of course, threw the fish nets and they discarded just in the sea. So big damage in the oceans. And after doing experiments, getting these fish nets out, they were able to reuse the yarns and make carpets again. So interesting model again, together with other people via an experiment. And now they are gradually scaling up. Then my last point, leadership. So I told you about the circular business models, the potential, how to do it, but then the leadership. How would you start here today? I would say give you some break and start on Monday. And I would like to invite you and say, why is a circular economy relevant for myself? So the personal level, your inner circle. It's a very simple exercise. You can even do it over the weekend. Then you could say that, ask the same question for your inner circle of friends and family. Why is a circular economy interesting? What could be the hook? Same question you could ask at work, your profession, in your organization or company. It doesn't matter if profit or non-profit. Then re-asking, same for the partners or the people you're working with or maybe the people who you see as suppliers, but should see also as a partner. And the last question will be, of course, how would it relate to public and planet? What's there the relevancy? And this is a very easy approach also to trigger yourself, but also powerful to do this with different people around you, for example, in your work, or between departments or between organizations. So back to Scott and Roger. Just one word about Roger, because you will probably recognize that. He said, and he's a CEO of a large corporate in the Netherlands, he said, I would like to move to circular economy, but I see that financial stakeholders, especially analysts and my shareholders, don't allow me because they only would look at my weekly, monthly and quarterly sales. So this is very often heard. And of course, the circular economy is something about the mid and the long run. Fortunately, Roger gave the good example and said, okay, I'm only going to give financial reports on a half-yearly, yearly basis. Scott is also now more brave and implementing circular design. And Martijn moves slowly his family company, Bosca, that already exists over 150 years, towards a circular economy. So I would invite you to say, are you the next one? And can we do a first experiment together? Questions?
Thank you. Do we have questions from the audience, please? You mentioned the higher costs. That they are there. Oftentimes when you start doing circular innovation, then you run into some costs that you didn't have before. But you quickly followed up that this is a great motivation to find a better customer value. How do you find customer value? How do you go about finding why and how customers are willing to pay more for who knows what?
Yeah, so first, having this conversation with your customers, if of course possible, but listen very carefully. Very often we just, if I would be in the computer business and I'm trained to, I'm product managers to sell computers. But yeah, when is the last time I asked you if you really needed a computer? Or maybe you only need access to internet, or do you like to play games? So then suddenly your context will change, because games and delivering something on games could be also delivered via other platforms or access to internet. Mm-hmm. So, and you could do this very easy, qualitative, to have the dialogue with your stakeholders. So the first step is identify who you're interacting with. Second, have the conversation. And as said, do a first experiment, and you can do this online, A/B testing, Google Ads, Facebook. It's just a few €100, that's it. And then you test it, and you make the next step. But the key should be that you move from an efficiency cost perspective to an, okay, creating value perspective. And that's a flip in the mindset.
You make this testing sound actually really easy. Just test A/B test and see the results and continue whichever works better?
Yeah. It's not, of course, only a B test. You have different approaches, like focus groups. You can do big quant tests. You can observe people. So there are many approaches. But also because I'm here in the Valhalla of IT, and I know there are a lot of handy people here, that you can do it. A/B test is very proven to be very successful, both for startups and larger corporates we're working with. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of data around that. Yeah.
But how do you feel about sometimes being said that the customer doesn't know what he or she wants?
Yeah.
So can you actually ask directly, like, do you want to lease a car instead of owning it?
I think you should have a vision. So the first step is also written in the book. As a company, you should have, or an organization, you should have a vision. And based on that vision, you could reach out and show different scenarios. I agree with you, a customer won't tell you what he or she wants. That's too easy. But the combination between we would like to head there, we want to be in circular, create circular business, and a combination on see where the different needs are. If you explore that gives you enough insights. It's both ways. Yeah.
Is that what you mean by the customer value about the trillion euro opportunity in circular business?
Yeah.
Where is this? What's the trillions of? Where does it come from?
It's a calculation done by Ellen MacArthur Foundation and McKinsey. And of course, they took a lot of assumptions through industry. So they looked at the footprint, they've looked at the way, et cetera, et cetera. But the big potential, especially here today for a lot of people, is in the innovation bucket. And looking, okay, what would be there concretely, the opportunity. And also already shown the last 10 years, while working with organizations, that it is proven. The only thing is, if your perception is, let's create a business case and we will get there, yeah, that's a linear thinking. So you also have to, like Roger, you have to really dare to take a vision and take a first step and also accept that it's a journey that's going like this and not going like that. But you will see new forms of value and sometimes have more multiple forms of value instead of just selling this computer.
So it's in no way the opportunity is not in reducing costs, but finding new opportunities.
Yeah, for me that's the key thing here. And of course, be patient, and also leadership means leading the transition. You get, if you work some time in this, a lot of resistance. People don't dare, they don't believe you, they don't want. It's a threat. And you have to really keep that in mind, that you lead that. Yeah, but everybody can. So it's not only top, it's bottom up, everybody.
And it's difficult probably also for the leader to know when to stop testing. Because if you run a test for 1 month and it doesn't show you results, then maybe the next day you will get all the results you need, but you already stopped testing.
Yeah, so that's indeed, and that's like all radical innovation. This is a form of radical innovation. You need some time and money and patience and leadership to say, okay, not just one test, and because of course it will fail. Like I failed with the renewable energy proposition. Well, you would say that's spot on, but why did it fail? Yeah. So you have to also to be sharp there and continuously learn, and at some moment in time say, okay, and now we're going to scale. Yeah. It becomes mainstream.
Would you have any questions? I have a question. It should be on, maybe.
So I'm Margaret from the Netherlands Embassy, and you brought a lot of examples that were sort of common sense, what we call talupojatarkus here. And we had a few meetings with you, with our Minister of Economic Affairs, Minister of Environment, a few other organizations. So my question is a bit broader, like if we consider Estonia as a company, a country as a company, what would be your practical common sense advice for the next steps?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. I really would start. So I would look where the energy is. So here today, if people at the end of the conference would say, okay, please count me in, I can give some time. And I think also from the environmental department and economical department, there is willingness. So it's only some money. Also what's happening tonight with some startups. So I would combine, first of all, I would create a platform where you share knowledge. And there's already so much knowledge from the circle economy, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't have to reinvent. We don't have to write a report for Estonia. That would be nonsense. So we would say, okay, what would be a big impact here? What are our key assets? Like we have the IT capabilities of Estonia. We have not a big population, some big cities, that's it. So let's do a few pilots, do a first experiment, learn from that, and then see who has which role. And then, but really try it. So dedicate some time on it. just some time and money. That's it, and willingness to do it. So make it small. You can make this very big, it's very conceptual, make it small. Does that answer your...
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Marko from Sustinero. I had an interesting conversation with Christiaan in the morning, and one question that I have from there. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think that circular economy in Estonian context is pretty much waste management focused and based, which is a part of circular economy. My question is, like, if we, and we see this as a low-hanging fruit that we could fix and start from there, moving towards circular economy. If we start from there and focus on waste management as a circular economy, can we actually succeed and innovate and reach the potential where we could reach? What's your opinion?
Yeah, the waste streams is a good starting point, of course, and that you manage quite well. The key question, as I showed you already, that's still about cost and efficiency. So how can we make Estonia the next step in that? How do we see it as a driver for innovation? That's the key question. And where do we see the buckets there? And of course, you could look at the resources side, the materials side, the waste stream side. So all those things are very relevant. But I also would like to go beyond that and say, okay, if we have waste streams, what can we create from those waste streams? If we have already some assets that are not optimized, can we optimize it? Like Airbnb is doing, or Peerby in the Netherlands, where you have sharing platforms. Do you already have that? So it's in that sense connecting some small dots. But I think that's the ground is there. The key challenge, I believe, what I also heard from what's happening here, is making it an innovation topic. So I would say create a ministry of economics, environmental, and innovation, and put them together. They have a beautiful building at the, so there's enough space. People work at home as well. And put them together, and also offer a playground for startups. But I also see a big role for middle-sized companies who can lead there. And for them, it's a real big opportunity, because you could also say, yeah, I wait and see, but you're now quite early. It's not a lot of cost, like the innovation curve. If you wait and wait, it becomes a risk, and you run out of resource, or you run out of other things. And you cannot bait the capabilities.
Krista Kuldannup from Organic Estonia.
Yeah.
So my question is, are the leaders then companies or the state? As we understood that in Netherlands, the state program started to lead this circle.
No, the state didn't lead. So so when we started with the circular economy, there were individuals, like an investor, somebody of 25 years old, who you don't have to explain the story, already knows that's happening. Somebody who's a 75-year-old lawyer, science. So we linked all these different angles together. And then you also saw traction coming from the state and the governments, but that was later on. The state can help, of course, very practical, like circular procurement, facilitating. How can they sponsor ideas, small ideas, to bring them to scale? That's very hard to finance. Banks don't want that. So a state could partly guarantee there. Pension funds could play their role. So that's also sometimes state money in a sense. So and then of course you could look at more legislation, like should we tax materials instead of labor? So there the state also has a role. But I wouldn't wait for the state. That's the silliest thing. I really would encourage you and say, okay, we start here. That's waiting for the state, and we are too late, I'm afraid. At least in the Netherlands. I cannot judge about here.
Thank you.
You still have any of those books left?
Yeah, you can order the books. They're not for profit. We designed them, but you can also borrow them from each other. So, and please, they're on our websites. There free articles, free templates, tools. You can always reach out to us. Like I said, I made a lot of mistakes. I'm very open to share them for free. So let's collaborate, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much for the presentation.